As we cook into this teaching today, one thing I want to say beforehand on baptism. Some of you may not be aware that the baptism that shows up in the Bible is only immersion. The word for baptism that shows up, the word baptism, means to dunk. And that's the kind we do as a Baptist church. And some of you may have been baptized in another form, sprinkled or whatever, as a child. And you didn't have anything to do with it. It's a beautiful expression. It's not a bad thing at all. But you've never done this thing before. So I just want to extend that out one more time and tell you it's a cool ritual if you're up for it. I've been baptized twice. Once as a fourth grader, and it really was a meaningful thing for me as a kid. My dad did it at the First Baptist Church of Ottawa, Kansas, and it's been a lot to me. And then lived my life, became a teenager, screwed up a lot of things, and and wanted to recommit. And actually, my future wife, Lynn, and I were baptized together in Lake Michigan in, what year would this have been? 1991, I think it was. And that was a deeply meaningful experience, too, more of an adult expression of that. So all that is to say, if you've ever thought about this, we do it in a really cool, loving, familiar way. Many of you have been baptized here, and if you're interested in that, just let me know, and I'll be happy to walk you through it. Today we're talking about how CrossWalk is a refuge for people evacuated by Mother Nature. And to help us appreciate this, we're going to hear from Bruno, Miguel, Karen, and Sam. Some of you might remember this. Back in 2014, this is what downtown looked like. I was jolted out of bed, and immediately my family and I all got dressed and drove up to the church as fast as we could to make sure it was okay, knowing that we were going to most likely be opening as a shelter in due time. And that's a nerve-wracking thing. It's the middle of the night, and you don't know if there are any gas leaks, and so we were very, very careful as we were trying to come in, not turning on any light switches before we knew if it was safe, and determined that we weren't smelling anything, so we were going to take the risk, and luckily nothing blew up, and we found lots of wreckage. And luckily nothing structural, but lots of mess to clean up. One of the coolest things is within, 10, 20 minutes, other crosswalkers just showed up to the campus in the middle of the night just to make sure that things were okay and to help clean things up. And so sure enough, within hours, we had the kitchen and the gym cleaned up so that it could be ready for evacuees and all that, and other spaces, got the glass cleaned up and all that. And we were indeed a shelter at that point. And this is kind of what it looked like. This doesn't really do it justice, but all the insurance trucks and media, they showed up here because this became the center of everything in the community for figuring out how to respond. And I'll get into this more in a moment, but Napa found out that it kind of wasn't prepared for this kind of scale of problems. And part of the solution to being able to handle larger problems was born in this sanctuary because of the earthquake, which I'll talk about in a bit. But the first voice we want to hear from is our own Bruno Bardet. So Bruno, come on up. And Bruno remembers that night pretty well.
Yes.
So tell me a little about what happened that night.
Well, it was a scary wake-up call.
Wake-up call.
Yeah, wake-up call. It was very scary. I remember the date, Sunday, August 24, 2014, 3:20 a.m.
Wow. Yeah.
So what happened, I was living in a studio at the time, and of course it was a yellow tag. Not red tag, but yellow tag, which means that you can get your stuff out and get out of there as quick as you can. All the utilities were turned off, water, electricity, and all that. So I kind of hang around some friends here and there for a few days, and I remember seeing something about CrossWalk Church, it being a refugee camp for people, and I'm like, one night I didn't know what to go, so that's where I came. I came straight to the gym, back there, and it was amazing. It was amazing that seeing all the Red Cross people and the CrossWalk people working together, helping people, and it was amazing to see, people, victims coming up and having somewhere to go, and the children here and having some place to go, and of course there was coffee, free food, there was an abundance of things to do, love. And it was amazed, and that's what I was really impressed with CrossWalk. And at the same time, I was looking for to work on my spiritual life. And actually, it took a couple months later, when I was really thinking about joining a church. I was like, oh yeah, I remember CrossWalk. They helped me a lot. So I came back here, and I saw the donuts and coffee. I'm like, okay, I'm in. So, it was really good also, to come here and see the table. It was really felt like home. It really felt like home. And I went through. The interesting thing is, like 2 years later, for 2017 fire, I was on the other side of the fence and jumped out of bed and came and helped. And
Right.
I've never left since then. I've been baptized here in 2015, so it'll be 10 years anniversary for Easter.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So that's the story, and I went through another storm in my life, and I was homeless in 2019, and I had nothing left. And when I found an apartment, who came to the rescue? CrossWalk.
Yeah.
So I came to give me little things, plates and cookwares, and remember Trudy, reached out, and she's like, I have 5 sets of frying pans. I don't need 5 sets. Here. So now every time I cook, if I think about Trudy, I think about CrossWalk, and it's amazing, amazing community.
All right. Thank you, Bruno. Thanks, brother. All right. Bruno's quite a success story. He has reinvented himself over and over and again, and now has a successful chauffeur business. So if you're ever looking for a ride to the airport, Bruno's your man. He took me to the airport just a month ago, and he drove very well. So happy to say that. Okay, so we're the epicenter of all things for the community during the earthquake, and because CrossWalk was in the news a lot, as happens all the time when there's any kind of a Mother Nature kind of a thing, I got this phone call from some stranger in the foothills, and he just asked for me because it was the only person he knew to ask for, and so he said, I have something you need. And I said, well, that's probably true. And so but he went on to say that he was part of a VOAD in the foothills, of volunteer organizations in disaster. And I'd never heard of anything like this, but he said this is an organization that we created in response to forest fires, wildfires up in our area, and it helps the community to come together. And it was very apparent that we didn't have anything like that. And so he drove all the way down from the foothills to give me a binder this thick and told me to call community leaders together so he could pitch this idea of a VOAD. And so I made the calls, and we had the head of the fire department here, the police department, the mayor, city council members, nonprofit leaders, and all that in this room to hear what he had to say, because we all knew that we were coming up short in terms of serving the community well. And so in this very room, the COAD of Napa Valley was conceived, Community Organizations Active in Disaster. It went from that to now a very, very robust organization that works with the county and nonprofit organizations to serve in times of great need. And to help you understand that, I interviewed the new executive director, Miguel, so he could tell you all about it. Here you go.
Well, Miguel Ángel Castañón, the executive director here at our local Napa Valley COAD, Community Organizations Active in Disaster. As the name applies, when there is a disaster or a large emergency in Napa County, we activate and we work with the nonprofits throughout the valley and throughout the county, I should say, to get services to those with that are going through a need. So everything from figuring out how we get food to them, if that's what's needed, or getting them connected to other resources that might be available or are coming up. So all those little pieces of who's going to do what where is what we work with them to do, so that we're not all focusing in one section, but working together as nonprofits to carry that message to everyone in our community to where they need to go to get that service, especially when there is an activation where a lot of people are being impacted and a lot of need is out there. We want to be able to figure out who's able to help. And we get activated with the county. So the emergency services, if they activate, they will bring us in and we will come to the table, and we will be a conduit between the nonprofit world and the government world. So we are able to provide information in both directions so that the nonprofits know what they need to get ready for and where the needs that they're already being identified. And likewise, let the officials here of the county, what are some of the needs that we're finding that we think they can fulfill or that we'll need help filling so that we can provide that. So those are one of the sides of it. On the other end of that same scenario, we work on making sure that vetted information is getting to our community. One thing that we want to try to avoid is that rumor mill that, oh, this just happened and this is happening. We want to make sure that we're getting messages directly from those that are in charge that we can then communicate to our partners, to communicate to their patrons. We don't want to stir up any fears that aren't needed to be out there, yet we want to make sure that they're all being very careful of what's really happening and where they need to avoid and those things. So that's a very large disaster. And so little smaller disasters like large PSPS events, which are the public shutoff events that PG&E has throughout California. Quite often, if it's a large portion of our county, they will have some funds for us to access so that we can get grocery gift cards to those individuals impacted and their families so that they can replace some of those groceries that they've lost. So that we get activated as a smaller little group. But in order to be able to do all this, we have subcommittees or committees that get together to discuss what our role would be if we were to be activated. Everything from communication and being able to have the language access component to make sure that we're spreading that word so that everybody gets that message, to food distribution, which we know that at CrossWalk Church are well connected there with all the services you guys are able to provide there, which is super grateful. But that's something that we try to do, at least meet with the different subcommittees yearly, if not more often, just to make sure that we're always ready to respond. We focus on preparedness. So we want to make sure that our community is prepared for the next disaster. And part of that is going out to where they are at. So either going to health fairs, resource fairs, where we can actually provide information on how they can better prepare a little each day. We realize not everybody can do a full go bag, which is where you keep all your important documents, those flashlights and other items that you would need if you needed to go right now in 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. We also go and do workshops with either neighborhoods, apartment complexes, churches, to have them prepare together. It is really empowering to be prepared as a household, but you become more resilient as a community when you know your neighbor's needs are going to be met and they're able to help when you need that help. So particularly when we speak to our senior community, we find that a lot of times they may have some sort of a plan, but sometimes they forget the transportation piece. If I did need to evacuate, how does that happen? And sometimes the plans that they have in place is, oh, my son would come from out of town to come get me. Well, if you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get out, you need somebody a lot closer, and that's going to probably be your neighbor. So we want to make sure that folks are working towards that every day, so that, like I said, we're all more resilient because we're all getting prepared. And then those that can't get prepared, that we want to be able to help them out in that type of an event. So that's a little bit of what we encountered throughout the year that keeps us busy. Right now, we're also, on top of all this, we have a new program that we're trying to locate community hubs and liaisons, so individuals that will help, that come out of the community and represent their community, help them connect to different services throughout the county, and then at some point be able to have some type of festivity celebrating those communities, and then bringing in the government agencies so that there's a connection between that community directly to their representative. It is, we feel it's very important for both lines of communication to happen, and we were very fortunate to be selected to be able to try to get this up and running. So we have 2 more years, and hopefully we'll have this really up and going and humming. So yeah, that's a little bit, maybe a little fast, but a little bit about COAD.
Cool. So the COAD, it started right after the earthquake, but was still in a very nascent phase when these fires hit in 2017. But we were much further along. So before, nobody knew who to organize or how to organize. When those fires hit, and I'll never forget this, the nonprofit leaders were called to the Community Foundation's community room to talk about what in the heck are we going to do now. And, you know, there was smoke in the air, and there was a heaviness that was so pronounced in that room of leaders. And so that was kind of next phase of developing the COAD. And you had agency leaders of all kinds and county leaders of all kinds in there talking about, well, where are we? What can we do? What must we do to meet the need in the community right now? That night of the fire, we kind of have a joke around here that whenever Dar goes on vacation, a major disaster strikes. And so in the earthquake in this one, she and Ted were out on somewhere and weren't able to get back when it happened. And this one, again, because they called Dar and Dar told them to call me. She's usually the one that comes and opens up. I got the call, and once again, in the middle of the night, I show up, and within minutes, a dozen crosswalkers show up to just help because they know we're going to need help. It's so cool. You don't have to put out a call, no nothing. They just show up. And that was super important because we got the gym ready to go. Red Cross was here ready to get everything in order on their end. And then hundreds of cars started piling in. And some of our crosswalkers were just directing traffic out here because there was no light. And so it was just chaos. The first round of people that came in were all people from resorts that were evacuated, like down in Carneros area. And these are people who had means. You could tell by the cars they were driving and how quickly they were on their phones figuring out somewhere else to stay. So they all kind of swapped out, and then a whole nother wave of people came in who did not have those means. Calistoga was evacuated, and they came here first. It was extraordinary. This is a little bit of the flavor of what it looked like. The reason the pictures aren't brighter is because it was smoky. This is about as good as you could get. This is what our gym looks like when we're activated. It's completely filled with cots. We have locker rooms over there and space for people to hang out and shower, so that's why we're it. In 2020, the game changed a little bit. Now it was super, super hot. COVID was in the air, and all of a sudden, Calistoga is evacuated again. And so here you can't really see what's going on here, but this is a line of hundreds and hundreds of people waiting to get in here so that we could process them over to the gym, not so that they could stay the night on campus, although a handful did, maybe a dozen did for some time, but so we could get them into hotels because We didn't want a group of people hanging out together in the same space when COVID was in the air, right? And so again, it was just a remarkable time. This is sort of some setup stuff that was going on. People always donate from the community. This is just lots and lots of Gatorade and water. We usually get inundated with it, and actually it becomes problematic. So we encourage people to buy gift cards instead of bringing us stuff. When people come, there are stations set up. Now COAD helps organize all this stuff. So COAD will call out to Napa Mental Health or Mentis to bring in counseling services, or Children's Resources to come in and provide some children's resources, so that when people are here, they can find help not just for their insurance stuff, but how can they get through. So that's an example of that, it's sort of a mental wellness place. Gavin Newsom showed up at that time, looking for some votes. Well, I don't know, but I do have to tell you that I was quite impressed. I wasn't sure. He came unannounced, and he actually, honestly, whatever you may think of him politically, he was very pastoral while he was walking around, talking to anybody and everybody. There were people who were probably undocumented, and he was just happy to have a conversation with them and express his concern. You know, said many times, "I work for you. We're doing the best we can." So I was impressed at that time. But you know, that just the reason I share this one, because it's kind of interesting, but also to let you know, once again, this place was at the center of so much activity that was going on. Because we have a beautiful courtyard, this allowed people to go outside and hang out. I mean, this is a miserable time. You're away from your home, you don't know what's going to happen, and just space to chill was remarkable. At other times, in fact, more recently, this space, in addition to our gym, becomes a housing facility. So every square inch at this time gets used. In fact, even beyond this, I didn't think about this for the first service. Dar could give you much more detail on this, but in our back education wing, we had places for different kinds of pets. So you had a cat area, you had a lizard area, you had a dog area. I mean, all kinds of stuff, because you got to think about that stuff. And CrossWalk has been involved in this, and the COAD has been a huge part of that. I've been a part of COAD from the beginning. I'm the guy who handed off the thing, and then later served on their first advisory council, then on their board. I was the chair of the board until the end of 2024, when I rolled off to let somebody else have some fun. I'm still deeply connected with it. COAD meets here in this space regularly, bringing nonprofit leaders together to talk about how we can serve the community better. So they are one of those groups that we want to welcome in this space to say, how can we be of service? And we say that all the time. Well, in the 2020 fires, a particular crosswalker was affected more than most. And I wanted you to hear from her. Her name is Karen Kinney, and she hates speaking in public. So I tricked her to have a conversation with me in my office, and you're gonna love what you hear. There we go.
My name is Karen Kinney, and I've been a member of CrossWalk for about 15 years.
And what's your age and weight?
I'm going to tell you.
Tell us about that night and what happened and what you
Well,
went through.
it was interesting because I had been evacuated twice previously, I think in 2017 and 2019. So then you pack up thinking, you know, you're leaving. And then I remember driving down the street the first two times and looking in my rearview mirror thinking, I'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of waved goodbye a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then this time, it happened, the weather was horrific. It was just so windy and rainy. And then I had gone for a walk and I went up over the Still Canyon. And I stood there and I could see puffs of smoke, you know, across the lake, everywhere, the lightning strikes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I still didn't think anything of it, and I came home, and I thought, I don't think this is gonna be good. And then we had somebody up in the neighborhood was kind of keeping us informed of what was happening, because it wasn't on the news.
Mm.
And then I packed up a little bit on Monday, thinking, well, I'll be a little bit ready in case I have to leave. So I always had my basket of important papers. few items of clothing and a few Facebook albums that I'm fond of.
Mm-hmm.
And then that next day, my son called me and he said, "Mom, you need to leave." And I said, "Well, we haven't been evacuated yet." And he said, "No, you need to leave now because there's the road going towards St. Helena's closed. The road going past the dam into Winters is closed." And he said, "If it gets any closer, that going to Wooden Valley will be closed." And he said, "You will have no way out."
Yeah.
And so then I thought, okay, maybe I'll leave now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I packed up. This just, I love telling this story. My frozen blueberries, my Greek yogurt, and my fresh salmon that Stephen Corley had given me a couple of days earlier.
Oh,
And
from
I
his
thought,
trip, yeah.
this is important.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lose those because I knew the power would probably go out and then everything would be spoiled in my refrigerator
Yeah.
because I'd be back.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I left, I told some of my neighbors goodbye because I wanted them to know that I was leaving and maybe they should leave too, but they didn't think it was necessary. So I got down to the Corners, which is about 5 miles down, and I got a text from Evan, who was keeping us informed. And he said, "Everything's fine, for sure the fire's not gonna, get as far as we are." And then I thought, I should turn back. And then I thought, oh, I'm almost, a third of the way to town. I might as well keep going because I have my blueberries, my Greek yogurt. And so then I went on into town and I stayed, with Eric and Tiffany, of course. And then I was kept in touch with one of my neighbors who knew that somebody else was keeping, the hoses going with so that the fire wouldn't hit our houses. And then, boom, then she called me and she said, "I can't text you this." She said, "Your house just exploded."
Oh my gosh.
It's awful. And so the fire, it wasn't on the ground, it was in the air. I can't quite imagine that. And there was a fire hydrant in front of my house and I had fire hoses. But there wasn't enough
Pressure anymore.
There was no pressure. There was no water.
Right.
And so to hear that later it's not what you want to hear really. But nobody's to blame. It just happened. So
Right. Yeah.
And even if there had been more fire, we had no air supply, there was
That's
no
right.
air.
They weren't doing that. Yeah.
No, they weren't doing that. And then I think on Wednesday you were doing Bible study on Zoom, and I walked down to the little park because Tiffany was working from home. Ella was on whatever Zoom calls for school, so I didn't want to be in the house.
Yeah, because this was in the middle of COVID, like 6 months
Exactly,
in.
yeah, it was during COVID. And so then I remember sitting on that picnic bench, and then you always do the check-in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, checking in with me.
Right. Yeah,
I lost
remember.
my house.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And still you can't really, until you go up there and see that it's all gone.
Yeah.
It's a weird feeling.
I can't imagine. Yeah.
And so then, besides all the moral support and the love and the prayers, then when I was able to move into my house, then this community gifted me with so much material things. And then I always tell people it wasn't that I couldn't afford to buy things. It was because I didn't have the mental capacity to go anywhere and pick out a salt and pepper shaker.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Seriously,
Right.
I couldn't even. I remember going to Target once and I saw Sharon Woods there. It's like it happened yesterday. And I was looking for a popcorn popper because I was going to get one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I couldn't make a decision. And there was probably 2 of them for me to choose from. And it was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I can't do this.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge gift. And people gave me so much, they thought about things that I didn't even think about.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So everywhere I look in my house, I see CrossWalk.
Wow. That's
In
beautiful.
every cupboard, in every closet, in every room.
Yeah.
Well, I did write this down.
All right.
Yeah, what a gift it is to be part of this legacy campaign, to literally raise the roof and pave the path, and so much more. So when I think of the saints that have come before us and gave selfishly, I hope that somehow they know that their legacy will continue also. I'm reminded of Philippians 4:10 through 13. I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. I'm not speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever the situation to be content. Being content but letting the house fall down are not the same thing. We must keep our house in good repair for those of us today and for those of us who follow, or for those who follow. Let us never take for granted what this community is and does for so many. I am because we are. Thank you all for walking with me through the storms in my life. May you know I'll be there for you too, as we all do life together. Because of the huge impact this community has had on my life, I hope you'll join me in ensuring this is a successful campaign. Your journey is different than mine, and I hope you never experience evacuation as I did. But to know that no matter where your journey takes you or the circumstances you might find yourself in, you have a place where you will feel safe, you will feel loved, and you will find healing. A priceless gift of joy and freedom.
Isn't that awesome? So good. So be sure to say, well, there's Karen right back there now. So well done, Sharon, or Karen. Well done. Very good. So when we think about all of these things, I wanted to talk about Sam. And I have 4 Sams up here. And what I'm really referring to is Jesus' parable about the Good Samaritan. He tells this story to his Jewish followers that there's this Jewish guy who leaves Jerusalem and he walks down, literally down 1,000 or 2 feet to the city of Jericho. And when he explains this, everybody in the audience is shocked because no fool would ever walk down alone from Jerusalem to Jericho. It's far too dangerous. You never know what's coming around the corner, and it had a terrible reputation for being filled with all kinds of thugs and so on. And the story goes on. What happens? The guy gets mugged. He's stripped of everything he's got, maybe even the clothes on his back. He's beaten up and left for dead on the side of the road. Jesus' audience at that point is like, yep, that's what happens when you head to Jericho and you're walking all by yourself. The guy kind of owns a little bit of this. And then Jesus continues the story. A priest was coming down the road and came by the beaten up, unconscious man. And instead of stopping, he walked by on the other side of the road. Now, the people in the audience didn't know exactly why, but they were probably surmising, well, maybe he's got to do some priestly role in Jericho, and so he knows if he stops and gets around a dead guy, because he couldn't tell, that was going to defile him, and that was going to make it impossible for him to really do the ministry he was called to do down there. So better just scoot along the other side, because he's dead anyway. And then a deacon of the church comes by sometime after that priest. And he also sees the guy on the side of the road and assumed he's dead. And for maybe similar reasons, he chooses to walk on the other side of the road and make his way to Jericho. 2 people who were very religious decided not to do anything for good reasons, maybe even ministry reasons. And then Jesus says, a Samaritan comes upon the guy who's left for dead. And at this point, everybody in Jesus' audience would have said, oh, the robber has come back. Maybe I missed a ring on one of his fingers. Maybe I missed a necklace. Maybe his cell phone has a wallet on it and I can get his credit cards. Who knows? But everybody in Jesus' audience would naturally assume that the Samaritan, who was a hated people by the Jewish people, and it was reciprocated, was probably the thug, was probably the thief. And so when Jesus says that it was the Samaritan, the bad guy, the one that everybody assumed would not be good, stops, puts the guy on his own donkey, takes him into Jericho, puts him up in a hotel at his own expense, tells the innkeeper, look after his needs while I'm away a few days on business. When I come back, I will totally pay for everything. Does all of that. Jesus finishes the story saying, you know, this is not about who deserves to be our neighbor, who we should love. The point of the story is, what does it mean to be a good neighbor? And the person that Jesus elevates in his brief parable, which is his best known parable, is the one who gave what he could to meet the need at the time. You know, in the last several years, especially when COVID hit and this campus was empty, we recognized that it was an opportunity to make major improvements, and we had some reserves to do that. During that time, we completely renovated the rooms where all of our recovery groups meet, because they were run down, looking tired, and we knew that if we made them beautiful, that would be inspiring for everybody, including ourselves. We teched out each room, made them high-tech because we knew hybrid stuff was going to be happening with Zoom and live stuff. We wanted to make them beautiful, so we had cabinetry installed so that they're beautiful meeting spaces now, so that when people would come back, they'd recognize that we invested for them. At the same time, we gutted our gym kitchen because the pastor of this church thought that we could probably turn it around in 2 weeks for about $40,000. 5 years later, and $150,000 or so, through shared expenses, we had some reserves we put in, we had some memorial gifts, we had some denominational funds come in, had a ton of money coming in that was channeled our way through Feeding It Forward, one of our partners here on campus, to help us renovate this thing, you know, now, and all the labor that we could do ourselves. We had Ted and his mighty men do that. I mean, really, really incredible that we were able to do that. And before that, we tore into our locker rooms and our gym lobby and the bathrooms there because it hadn't been touched since 1969 or whenever, and they looked like it. And there were no access and functional need capacity there, so we created bathroom or shower stalls that could handle wheelchairs at that time because they weren't there yet. And in our gym lobby, we put in accessible stalls so you could go to the bathroom, so you wouldn't have to go to the porta potties that are always just a little bit on the nasty side. You know what I'm saying? Why would we do that? Why? I was thinking just in my head, you know, probably, and again, through lots of different memorial gifts, contributions, reserves, grants, and all that stuff, we probably poured $200,000 into this facility in the last 5 years. Remember, 90% of the use of this campus is non-CrossWalk specific. Why do we do that? Why would we do that? Because that's the point of the Good Samaritan. We are generous. We are generous. We are generous in our service. And if this campus can be an act of service, then of course we want to keep it up and do amazing things with it so that it will continue to inspire going forward and continue to serve well. It's not very fun thinking about flat roofs that need to be addressed or parking lots. I mean, talk about a dud, right? I mean, who gets excited about that? But I tell you what, as we've been talking on a board level about this stuff, we're at a time in our country and in the globe where it feels like we're powerless. Like we don't know what we can do to make any real difference. But you know what? CrossWalk makes a difference. What you invest in this space makes a difference to real people every day of the week. This place is open from 6:30 in the morning till 9:30 at night, serving people. You want to make a difference in the world, this is a good place to do that. And I am actually really excited that the things that I'm going to invest in, Lynn and I are going to invest in this capital campaign, there's a strong chance those things are going to outlive us. This is a legacy idea. We are planting trees that we will never enjoy the shade of. And that's awesome. You get to be a part of that, and I invite you to do that. We're over time. Thank you for being patient. I'd like us to end today with this rendition of the Lord's Prayer. Would you stand with me? And then we'll say it together. Next week, by the way, before we do this, I hope you got as much out of this, these interviews and these voices as I did, and preparing them and editing and all that. Next week, holy moly, man, buckle up. It is going to be extraordinary. We're talking about people finding refuge here who have been mistreated, and we're focusing particularly on the LGBTQ plus community. You are going to hear an interview that I recorded on Friday. Going to blow you away and warm your heart. And then Coach Bailey, who has been a friend of mine for many years, she read a poem at the rally yesterday. She's well known in the community as sort of the voice for allyship and all that. She's going to be here both services. I'll interview her on stage. It's going to be a day. So if you have any gay friends, by the way, next week would be a really good day to invite them, because they're going to find out just how welcoming and affirming we really are, because we really are. Let's say this together. Ground of all being, mother of life, father of the universe, your name is sacred beyond speaking. May we know your presence. May your longings be our longings in heart and in action. May there be food for the human family today and for the whole earth community. Forgive us the falseness of what we have done, as we forgive those who are untrue to us. Do not forsake us in our time of conflict, but lead us into new beginnings. For the light of life, the vitality of life, and the glory of life are yours now and forever. Thank you for coming today. Hope you had a good experience. See you next week.